Got a brand new Jeep.
You're so
Look
good.
at your
I'm
notes.
so glad you took notes.
Me too.
I'm so glad because
That's why I was like, I'm going back for these because it's like 2 pages and I didn't have it at my
You're
phone this
impressive.
time,
I know
You are
God,
what Bert calls an excellent lab partner.
very much so. Yes, you were
I am.
pulling the team, at least my team. I like your shoes; those are cute.
Oh, thank you.
Are they Tom's?
Toms, yeah, they're cute though.
As I widen my eyes because I have my glasses. What are they? Like ridiculous. What are they? Tom's. Got it. Got it. Are we recording?
Disco balls.
Ha. Book club.
Book club.
We're back.
We're back, bitches.
Okay. This one is When Life Gives You Pears.
Did your dog eat that one?
My puppy might have enjoyed it a lot. It tasted delicious. Both sides tasted amazing to Izzy. So Izzy gives it 2 paws up.
Sweet.
But this is Jeannie Gaffigan's book, When Life Gives You Pears. I think it came out October 1st, and it's available wherever you buy books. But we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. So Jeannie had brain cancer, or a tumor in her brain.
tumor,
I'm not sure it was was it cancerous? I don't think it was.
I don't believe it was cancer.
so.
It was benign.
Yeah.
And it was shaped like a pear and really large. And she just kept trucking on with life, right? Not paying attention to the fact that she had lost hearing in one ear and couldn't walk in high heels anymore. And
Which I think is so relatable for
Right?
moms.
Yes.
And I mean, she's a mom of 5.
Yeah.
But like for a mom of any amount of kids, I think it's really relatable.
completely.
Because, Cathy,
Some people
Yes.
in this room haven't been to the
When-
doctor in years.
That's
last
true, but
time.
I have not lost hearing either. I'm just saying.
As far as you
I
know.
am not ignoring. What? I'm sorry, what?
As far as you know. So, when was the last time you went to the doctor?
I have not had anything that I'm ignoring.
When was the last time you went to the doctor for physical?
I'm sorry, aren't we talking about a book today?
I'm just asking. Just curious.
It's been a while. It
Like-
has
like
been
a-
a long time.
More than
this
5
book
years?
is a very good reminder. Yes, more than 5
she's
years.
More than 5
really
years?
slick.
More than 10 years?
No.
Okay. So 7. 7 and change.
Exactly.
Ah,
I went when I turned 40. That was the last time I went. So now everyone knows I'm 47. Thanks, Leanne.
You're welcome.
Um,
Well, I'm 49, so there.
Thank you.
You need to rectify that.
It is definitely a really good reminder. You know, the fact that I play it off like I don't have anything wrong with me, and I really don't. Like
Right.
nothing is wrong. I'm very healthy. However, that's really naive,
Mhm.
and I think that is one of the things from this book. Yes, she did ignore some pretty big signs
Yeah.
of things that were actually medically wrong with her, like the fact that she literally lost hearing.
Yep.
That's not something you ignore for several years.
I don't think she
But-
ignored it. I think she didn't notice it, right? I think she just didn't notice it
Yeah.
until she
I
was on
think
that
she
flight and
noticed
went, hey.
it and was like, "Oh, that's interesting," but like sort of played it off, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's something else."
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Um,
that also that sort of thing, like I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I know there's been things recently when it's like, you know, oh, I know, it was like the water pressure in our shower. It was decreasing ever so slightly over the months and until we had like no water pressure. And I just thought, oh, this crappy shower, we never have any water pressure. And then the plumber came and fixed it, and it was like, oh my God, we're like, it was too much for the girls. It was
Right.
like a storm. Yeah, and
Like
I
a
feel like that
storm.
could help with that could happen with hearing. Like it just sort of goes down over
A
time,
little bit,
and
a
it
little bit. Thank you so much.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you.
You're just hanging out.
fly on the wall.
You're just crashing.
What were you saying? What were you saying that was so funny?
She was talking about the water pressure in her shower.
Oh my God. I just had a legit theory about water pressure the other day that the haves and the have-nots, you know? Like people always want to
You
be.
mean Oprah's TV show?
Is that a TV show?
Yeah.
You look great. Did you put makeup on?
Just lip gloss.
God. That poor people want to be rich, but they don't know that what they don't know. Not to. This is a horrible premise. Oh my God, I can't believe it's coming out of my mouth. But when you're rich, you renovate a house. You have money to buy a new house, but the water pressure laws have changed, and so poor people have the best water pressure around the world, without a doubt. Where rich people are literally just showering in small urine streams.
Low flow.
Low flow sucks. I was like,
How
I
they
thought
suffer.
when
How they suffer.
wow, I just got cancel cultured. I just alienated everyone. The guy's like, yeah, man, thanks a lot, man. I'm having a hard time with healthcare, but at least my water pressure's through the roof.
Can't buy fresh produce, but I got a good shower.
all my food has hormones in it, but goddamn it, my balls are clean.
Yeah, you pretty much canceled yourself out there.
All
Dude.
right, I'm gonna go to the YMCA. I'm gonna run.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, hey, I know what I'm here. Nadal wants to know if you can do 2 bears, 1 cave today.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not a bear. I'm a bunny.
It's 1 bear, 1 bitch, 1 cave.
How about 1 bear, 1 bunny? Terrified, shaking in the corner.
Okay, let's.
Well, can we talk about this later? I don't know.
I need an answer. What's your day look like?
I have no idea. I don't even have my phone to look at my calendar.
I have my phone. That doesn't help.
It was my calendar on your phone?
He definitely needs an answer.
What time?
He said he's free all day. He can do whenever.
Well, we have a 4:00 meeting.
That's what I told him.
And we have to pick up Georgia from school at 4:00 from
What?
the bus stop.
You have to pick up Georgia when?
At 4:00 at the bus stop. I was walking home from school.
We have a 4:00 meeting.
Yeah.
How are you going to pick up Georgia at 4:00?
I didn't know I was in the meeting. I'm not sure this is interesting for a podcast. Sorry, we may have to just cut all this out.
No. This is, people love this. See, let me tell you something. You're not an OG podcast fan, and I am. These are the parts of a podcast that made it fucking fascinating for me. There's a thing. This is for only anyone who's a real podcast listener. Rogan used to have a landline in his house that would ring randomly. That was my favorite part of the show. So yes. Yeah, because you get a very real reaction. He'd be like, God damn it, I gotta get rid of this fucking landline. And I used to make me giggle. I was like, if I find that number out, I'm gonna call it every time he's podcasting. So yeah, you want to try? Do you think you could do? Can you do later tonight?
Like 2 to 3.
2 to 3?
Yeah.
I'll reach out and see if we can do 2 to 3.
I don't know what's on my calendar, but maybe if you go and look on my phone and see if I have anything from 1:30 to 3:30.
This is an insight to organize, Leanne.
Go look on my phone. It's on the kitchen island.
That's another podcast.
2 to 3, right?
Look at 1:30 to 3:30 because it takes half hour to get there.
I'll give you a thumbs up if it happens. Okay.
I don't need to know. Don't come back.
I love you guys.
Love you.
Bye. Thank you.
For saying I'm skinny. Missed out, Kirsten. You should have said I'm skinny.
You know, a lot of people complain that he interrupts my podcast, and I don't have the heart to tell him.
Why.
I don't have the heart to tell him because
It's not
he's
that
just.
he interrupts; it's that he takes over.
Yeah, I think it's maybe both.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of people email me and like, please tell Bert this is your podcast and to stay out of it. And we don't want to hear from him. If we want to hear from him, we'll watch the
We'll listen to
Bertcast.
his.
But I just don't have the heart to tell him because he gets so excited. You know, he loves the ladies in my life. He loves every lady in my life. So I think he just gets so excited when he's off the road to see anybody that he loves to see. So he just kind of comes in and pushes in. So sorry, everybody who is listening. He does deficit fund this podcast, so I can't really completely kick him out. It is his mic and his tech and his camera. Anyway, that's really a good analogy. Going back to what you were saying about the drippy faucet that over time gets terrible, and then when it's fixed, you're like, "Holy cow!"
Right. I didn't realize how bad it was before.
Exactly. I didn't realize. I know my dad was just talking to me about the same kind of analogy. He said he had a friend who said the best gift he's ever received in his entire life was hearing aids. That he had no idea his hearing had diminished until he got a hearing aid. And he was like, oh my God, I had been missing so many just subtle sounds of life that were gone. And then I guess someone got him, his kids or somebody got him hearing aids for his birthday or something. And he was like, it was a whole new world. Yeah. It was the best gift.
I think people feel like that with glasses too sometimes, that it's like, they're like, you know, well, I can see, because you associate like blindness or like loss of sight with like blindness, like dark black, you do not see anything. And so when you're like seeing things and you don't realize that you're not seeing the detail that you used to see in the colors and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's very true. And because it just goes gradually, unless you have an injury or something and it's sudden, I would imagine it would be just not noticeable so much. But anyway, it was a big reminder to pay attention, to be more mindful of yourself. We all get in this rut of caring for other people, like the example of my husband coming in and going, can you take care of my podcast today? Unexpected. It happens all the time. What'd you think about what else? What did you think about this book?
I think it is right in line with all of the books that we've been reading lately, which are about resiliency. Like, I feel like they're all about resilience, whether it's, nonfiction, self-help to help teach our kids resilience, or made, economic disadvantage, or this. I mean, she had to be really resilient, but so did her family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a lot to overcome, right? Because her recovery was very long.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, in fact, I think it's still going on to some extent. I know when she was out here podcasting with me and Bert, she had just, I think, seen somebody about her voice. I think one of her vocal cords is still frozen, which was
Wow.
a side effect of very minor nerve damage from this brain surgery. But still,
Oh yeah,
it's still,
still big.
it would be
It's huge. Like, literally, I feel like she lost her voice. I feel like that's why she wrote this book. She lost her voice and she felt like she needed to get it back a little bit.
That's a good way of looking at that. Yeah.
She literally could not communicate, couldn't speak
No.
for however long, 4 weeks or whatever it was before she, that's massive,
Yeah.
And
not being able to swallow.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Yes.
Yeah.
That is insane. I don't know how she dealt with that. That's crazy.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
So apparently the surgery, the pear-shaped mass was next to her spinal cord and pushing it to the side. And then obviously some nerves were kind of enmeshed in the growth. So when they pulled the growth out, they had to do some delicate nerve surgery as well. And there were some side effects. And one of them is she had to relearn how to swallow, because her swallow obviously is an autonomic. It's something that happens automatically. You don't think swallow now.
I think
Just
that
happens.
and that was also affected by because she was intubated. I know this from our experience in the NICU, that when Vivian was intubated, it means having a breathing tube down your throat, and so that muscle sort of atrophies in a way that because you can't swallow the tube down, and it's sitting in there and it's painful, and when it comes out it's painful, and so that was a big focus for my baby in the hospital, was learning to swallow again. And for a lot of babies, but a lot of elderly people, they're like at different times and obviously different surgeries, but the swallowing is a big issue with a lot of different illnesses.
And the inability to swallow properly can cause you to swallow things into your lungs.
Yes.
Right? And aspirate?
Yes.
Is that the right word?
Aspirate.
And she got pneumonia from it.
Yeah.
And I was terribly, terribly sick. And I can't imagine being separated from my kids in such a vulnerable state, and being in intensive care for so long and not being able, not seeing them.
Yeah.
And I would feel so burdensome on everybody. I just put myself in her position, and I could see myself going, no, go home. Everybody go home.
Right.
Don't take care of me. I'm good. Let the staff take care of me. You go on with yourself. But that's really not good. That's not healthy. It was Jim handled it brilliantly, I think, by scheduling people to be there all the time with her, so she was never alone. That was really, really great. Sounds like he was a champ for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In this process. I'm not sure Bert would be as champion-like. I'm afraid he would not handle this
she
quite
said
as well.
something. I took copious notes, but I'm going to have to find it. But it was something about how their roles were forced to be reversed, and that she is such an uber organized together person who really keeps the ship running, and that in forcing the role reversal, it's a good quote. Keep talking, I'll find it.
Well, I can't imagine what the role reversal would be like in my house, since I went to Vietnam for 10 days and Isla brought a bag of rice to school for lunch. So I can't imagine what would happen.
But maybe that was day one though. Or maybe that
was day one of the 3 he was responsible for. Of the 10, I was gone.
But okay, devil's advocate, they were happy and healthy.
Yeah, they
when
were.
you got home.
Yeah.
That's
right.
true.
So granted, it was not done the way you would have run the household.
No.
Okay,
But
this
he did
is one
manage.
of the ones
Yes.
that I'm thinking. When I was recovering at home, I saw that my having been the alpha controller was actually stealing the power from my family and preventing them from blossoming into the masters of their own lives. I'd been overwatering the garden.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
I didn't mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt
That's
you.
it.
I was going to say, I feel like that's about every other book or whatever I personally have been reading lately about like overparenting, right? Like that's the ultimate, like you don't allow your children to step up and be who they really are and grow. And it's terrible that it takes that. And I think that was one of the big messages is like, don't let something like this, you know, cause you to realize that you are overparenting. Or
learn
whatever,
it before.
you know? Yeah.
Learn from my mistake.
Yes. Thank you.
I felt like the whole message of the book in a lot of ways was you can survive.
Yep.
People, you persevere and learn from my mistakes. Don't ignore symptoms that you don't understand. Take care of yourself, prioritize yourself, and let go
Stop
of
and
control.
smell the roses, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let go. She just said, I completely understood her perspective. I only have 2 kids, and I feel like I'm constantly at the orthodontist, at a practice, at a
100%.
play. And the last thing you want to do is go, no, I need to go to the doctor now. Because who wants to go to the freaking doctor ever? Never. But then you don't want to spend the half a day it takes for you to do that. I don't want to do that either. But you know, I do. So I do take care of myself in that way. But I completely understood her perspective. I didn't when my kids were younger. I mean, I went like 5 years without going to the dentist because I was like, I don't freaking have.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing when they were little.
I don't have that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you have to, you know, I guess you have to organize it. You have to schedule it on your health and wellness day, which is Wednesday for me. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah. So I thought that was a good takeaway too, was to not forget yourself, even if it is really hard. And even if you've piled all these other things on top of you, not to forget yourself. What a strong woman she is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really strong. What a scary situation. Have you ever had a health scare like this? Anybody?
I mean, I related to it from when I was on bed rest, and then Vivian was premature, and so I was only in the hospital for a week. With
I didn't know you were on bed rest.
Yeah,
How long were you on bed rest?
4 days before she was born.
Okay.
When she was born 10 weeks early, and then I was there another 4 days
Right.
after that because it was an emergency. And so I related to the NPO, nothing by mouth or whatever, which is like, and it was, it was only 4 days.
Right.
Right.
It was only 4 days. But yeah, I can only imagine. So like extrapolating from there, imagining how hard that must have been for her to just, to smell the smells and to,
Yeah.
And to drool.
yeah.
Right. Because I don't think she could control her.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
She can't swallow.
Right.
So the drool's got to go somewhere. And if
Right.
you haven't eaten.
And the rest of your senses are still working. Like your
Yes.
nose, like all of that is still going to make,
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
it's
Yeah.
going to be torturous.
It had to
Like,
be.
Yeah, she talked about how angry it made her
Yeah, I
that
don't
walking
blame
down
her.
the hall in the hospital, and there was a big piece of art that was all this produce.
Yes, all the produce. Yeah.
Oh,
How offensive.
yes.
There's someone who can't eat. So
Right.
funny. Yeah, I liked that I felt like she didn't miss much. Like she must be a really observant person. She picked up on everything. Like I don't know that I would have seen that piece of fruit and went, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But what an interesting perspective. I
Yeah.
felt like in reading her book, she's very self-aware or at least aware of how things are affecting her. When she was in her room, hearing her family in the living room because she couldn't really get out of bed much, and how that affected her. I thought was very self-aware to be able to articulate it
Yeah.
so well. I felt like I understood how she was feeling, and I don't know if in that moment I would be able to articulate that as well as she did. Maybe in retrospect, maybe that's what it was for her as well.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
yeah, it's crazy. I just thought of something else I wanted to talk about with her, and now okay. So how crazy was all the path of her getting the right surgeon and meeting the cousin who was the person who had the hookup at this was it Mount
Sinai.
Mount Sinai.
Mount
Yeah.
Sinai, that was totally the opposite side of town, nowhere she ever would have explored, and how everything just laid out in front of you. You know, I've said
Like
this
all of the stars aligned to
Yes.
get her
Yeah.
to where she needed to be, like immediately.
yes, to the right
Yeah.
person at the right time. That was a beautiful thing too.
Mm-hmm.
To just see how the road rose to meet her.
Yeah.
You know, when she asked for help from the universe to her from God,
Mm-hmm.
that the road rose to meet her. I thought that was a really cool thing to witness through this book.
Yeah, that
To
was really
see.
cool.
It was really cool because there's no reason why, you know, it was just a bunch of serendipitous great things that came together to get her to the right person. This was really cool.
Yeah. It's funny that you were saying that because I was thinking one of the things that I actually really enjoyed in the book, which I did not think I was going to, was the whole religious aspect of it.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of my childhood and I found it really comforting, which was really, you know, generally I'm like, oh, stop talking about God, like cut it out. I don't want to hear about this, but I did not have that reaction. I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And super, I don't know, super calming and whatever. Like it was very interesting. I really did not anticipate that. I thought it would annoy me.
Huh, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Was it about her tone, you think? Was it about her not trying to get you to be a faithful person, but just saying this was the path that I took?
It was such a comfort to her.
Yeah, it was.
And you wanted her to be comforted because it was, I mean, just such a big, horrible thing happening to her and their family.
Right.
I also feel like for me, it I don't know, somehow that connected me a little bit. It reminded, like a lot of those scenarios are things that I experienced growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like being that connected to clergy and being, you know, involved in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't thought about that in decades because I'm so not connected these days. Like I don't attend mass. I don't, you know, none of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I don't know. So it just reminded me of being younger and smaller and something peaceful and enjoyable with my family.
Having a trusting community, probably, that wasn't your family. That was in some ways pure, you would like to think.
Yeah.
At least it was pure in your experience of that religion.
Yeah, I don't know. It was very weird. It just sort of struck me a little bit because I was like, I don't know why this is the part that I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. Because generally, like I said, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. That is really cool. That's
Yeah.
cool that you experienced that. I thought it was great that she had a religion. It didn't move me like you're talking about, but I thought it was really, really powerful. I think it's powerful. So I'm a very faithful person, but I'm not very religious. So I would imagine if this happened to me, I would definitely be praying and talking to God and looking for signs, but I don't have that resource of like a clergy, a nun, a priest, you know, I don't have that. So yeah, it was a really cool part of the book. You're right. I agree. It was cool. And they seem to have some really good friends in their community, which is great too, that stepped up, and her siblings and her parents, you know, a lot of
And the
support.
fact that they have that many siblings, like that is a little mind blowing.
Yeah. How many siblings did she have? I don't remember.
6? No. Oh, really?
I think it was like 10.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. It was
I
a
don't
lot.
remember either. It's a lot.
And she's the oldest.
Yeah.
So she was the boss, which makes sense why she would be the boss of her house, right?
Yeah, of
Yes.
course.
I can definitely relate to that, to being the boss of the house. And it is hard, you know, to let things fall apart, to just let things fall apart, because ultimately when they fall apart, 9 times out of 10, mom is the person who has to put it back together or has to clean up the mess, which then makes more work for mom as opposed to just doing it yourself and not letting the kids, you know, be the master of their own destiny, so to speak, in the household chore list or whatever it is. Sometimes I do that all the time. I just, never mind, I'll just do it myself. Or I say, they have so much homework. Am I really going to pull them out to walk the garbage out?
Yeah.
No, but you know, I've been trying to learn from her and saying, you know what? It's 10 minutes of their time. 10 minutes is not going to fuck up their homework. Take 10 minutes and do your chores and then go back. And then we've all contributed. I've been trying to do that more. lately. So glad that she survived this and was able to write this book. I think anybody who is diagnosed with any kind of life-threatening journey like hers would probably have some comfort from her humor and from her, tenacity and survival. And
because even though it's a really, it sounds like we're talking about really dark stuff. It's a very light book. It's not like, I cried. I did cry, but not like, it wasn't like a sobbing, book. It was like, oh wow, that's amazing. That was amazing that worked out, or whatever. But it's funny and light.
It is. She approaches it with a lot of levity, for sure. And it is a heavy subject. Any kind of mass in your brain, I can't imagine. How terrifying. So you didn't answer the question. Do you ever have any life-threatening anything like this? No. I had a scare once before we had kids. I had a lump in my breast. It was caused by birth control, but I didn't know that. So when you get the call, we found a mass. You need to come back. It's really scary.
I actually had that experience when I was like 26.
Did you?
Yeah. Like a long time ago. But it was like, I knew, like I had this tiny lump, and it was, just a random cyst or whatever. It was not a big deal. But those days where you're like, okay, I'm not entirely sure what this is. Everyone's saying it's not a big deal. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but yeah.
But you don't know till the fat lady sings, right? You don't know. So I remember the time between the phone call and the next mammogram. I had to have some other different type of more serious mammogram. Feeling floaty, like I felt like I wasn't in my body for a little bit. And I was trying to, I was calm. I was not panicking, but I remember feeling not in my body. Like just not grounded, maybe. And I was dating Bert. I called Bert and told him, and he was like, okay. And I think he had a very similar reaction. Like, we're not going to overreact, but this is not, great. I'd much rather my mammogram just be like, you're good. It's not a fun phone call. I can't imagine having one that were really serious. It must be very hard for somebody.
I remember feeling like not light, but like it was just a constant thought there, like almost like you could feel it when you're like, you can't really feel it. Do you know what I mean? But it was just not out of your head.
Right.
So if it's something really scary, I can't even imagine trying to go through day to day.
Right.
And being told, hey, you know what? You can come back in 3 weeks. Like how terrible would that be? Like her first appointment was a month later.
Yeah. Forget it. And how many people, the whole time I was reading this, I do the same thing as I go, how many people don't have the resources she had? Not that she had any like financial tie resources.
Yeah.
This is a family member who was...
It was random dumb luck almost.
It was exactly that. It was almost random dumb luck who got her into the right people. But how many people don't have that?
Yeah.
Like if she hadn't had that, where would this have ended up? Even though the tumor was benign, it was definitely doing some damage.
Right. It sounded like it was really complicated because the first brain surgery, she described her tumor as like a buttery crystal that was like flaky and needed to be like extracted in different
piece by
pieces
piece,
instead of just like cutting the whole thing out. And so they had to go in and do a subsequent surgery for that. Cause she woke up from the first surgery and she was like, I'm here, I'm me, everything's great. And they were like, actually, we didn't do what we set out to do.
Right.
Right.
You have to come back. Yeah.
Yeah. So to have like the complexity of that.
And not just any surgeon. I mean, she had found the head of neurosurgery just through a connection of a family member.
Right.
So I thought of that a lot, is how many people have these things and don't have a resource like that. And hers was not about being wealthy or white or privileged in any way, shape, or form. It was about a family member having been at that hospital, right? And knowing someone at the hospital from their family member's long stay. Just one of those crazy things where it was just kind of meant to be. The road rose to meet her. And how many families don't have that experience? It's really a shame. It's the same in education where kids don't have good advocates at home for things they need in education. It's heartbreaking to hear people who don't have that same kind of good luck.
Right.
Yeah. But good for her.
Yeah. Right.
It's awesome.
I mean, because yeah, I think the outcome would have been very different if she didn't have that, you know,
Oh, totally.
like, because it sounds like waiting 3 weeks would not have been an okay option. you
It
know?
did. Yeah. It did sound that
So
way.
That's, yeah, thank God,
Yeah. Thank God.
right?
What's that? What else is in your notes? The excellent lab partner we have.
I know.
I'm the nerd. Oh, so much. Oh, one thing I thought about our mountain climbing experience, our rock climbing experience, when you realized that you were a sprinter. And there was a quote in there that said, even though I had lived my whole life sprinting, now I had to take the attitude of a long distance runner in her recovery, and how that just imagining. So it's like your nature is to be a sprinter. Her nature is to be a sprinter. She's like, and then like to have to calibrate yourself.
Yeah.
Because she just couldn't be a sprinter at this stage in her life. She has to recover, and recovery is a marathon.
Right.
And I thought that was just a really powerful idea, because you could say that about like any other kind of personality trait or
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, Bert.
Yeah. Bert's back.
Bert's back.
He's lost his coffee. I don't see
He
his
walked
coffee.
out with it, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
thought
did.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not shocking. He loses everything all the time. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a very interesting concept. I think I would be very angry throughout the entire recovery process. I would be so frustrated at not
Yeah.
being able to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So
Yeah.
I get frustrated like when I get a bad cold, like the kind where you can't really
Yeah.
get off the couch.
Yeah.
I'm just mad the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
time because I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah.
We take that for granted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Just health in general. I mean, we
Yes.
we take it for granted.
Yeah.
Which, you should, and you should go about your days. But at the same time, it is good to have a little reminder of like,
Right.
oh, yeah, some gratitude is in order.
Right. To
Or
appreciate
just get a
it.
checkup, less than 7 years apart. Just
Uh-oh.
saying.
Okay, notes, please.
What else in your notes? What else? What else?
What else? Oh, I loved this. She said, having to relearn the same lessons you thought you'd already mastered in life is humbling. And that was about the, like being the alpha controller and realizing, oh, my family's figuring it out. They're learning important lessons too. That's the gift in this.
Right.
But that to have to relearn that, because she does go back and say, I wish I could tell you that I was magically like a better person after this experience. And she's like, but I'm, I am who I am. I'm like, she's the go-getter and the manager and the runner and and I thought that was very profound, because it's so true. I don't know if you guys feel that, but I feel like it, the same lessons circle back, that I'm like, wait a minute, I figured that out when I was in my 20s. I read books about it. I went to therapy. I did the thing. And then you're like, oh shit. Like,
Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
And it is really honest. I like the honesty of her book.
Yes.
Of the parts of the book where she maybe was not super graceful or kind or considerate, or who would be in these circumstances. But a lot of people would write a book as if they were.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
appreciated that.
Yeah.
I appreciated that she said, I was angry.
Yeah.
And I was pissed at Jim, and this
Yeah.
is why. And I was like, I could totally see that. Bert would be so mad at me for the same reason if I were caretaking him. And it doesn't make rational sense,
Yeah.
Right.
but I understand it. And I really appreciated her honesty and just letting her warts and all hang out,
Yeah.
so to speak, in her reviewing of her process in this whole big dilemma. That was really cool. I think that inspires us all to be more honest with who we are, right? Because our warts are part of what make us beautiful, really, at the end of the day. So, yeah, I liked that part of the book too, that I went away going, she wasn't nice and pretty in the whole thing. And
Yeah.
that's very human
Yeah.
and relatable. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
What else is on your list? What else?
The
Thank you for
list.
doing all this homework.
The
I
list.
know, right?
Okay. Where are we? Oh, she said, without my suffering, it would have been impossible to achieve this higher level of joy, the happiness that they're finding as she's recovering and being home with her children again. And You know, it's so true. Like it's, you know, you want to like just get to the happy parts of life and sort of like do everything that you can to stamp out any possibility of disruption or sadness or anger or any of those things. But it's so true that the suffering does help you experience the joy at a more profound level. Because before she was saying things like about our kids. Oh, this was something I really related to as well. She said, I felt like I was missing my life. I used to complain about waking up under a pile of kids. Now all I wanted was a pile of kids. Lately, I'd spent so much time as a mother thinking if I could just get away from the kids for a little while, I could finally get some things done. Now I was forced to be away from them and my heart was broken. I got so caught up in scheduling and running everything everywhere, trying to be a perfect mother and thinking I'm doing all this for the kids, that I actually became overwhelmed and busy to the point that I actually wasn't doing much for the kids at all. I'd been focusing on things I felt needed to be accomplished for them while I was missing important opportunities to really connect with them. And she says, God, I'm sorry. Please let me survive this. I can change. And then later she's like, I wish I could tell, you know, much later in the book, I wish I could tell you I changed. And I haven't. I'm still me. And I'm trying to get back there. But I liked that honesty. I really related to that. I feel like a lot of the time I'm so busy doing things for my family that I'm not actually spending time with my family or experiencing my family. It's just a lot of running around and frustration and you do this, you go there. And yeah.
Do you feel that way, Cathy?
Yeah.
Oh, I do too.
I do.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like so much of the day is like, all right, I got to do this and do that and get them here and get them there and whatever. And then 3 days goes by and I'm like, how's your day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you miss stuff like that sometimes. So yeah, I definitely find that very relatable. And it's like, does it matter? Like, so what if we're 10 minutes late? Like, who cares? Like, if we're in the middle of something, like that's the part that you need to hold on to. That's the part that's far more valid than get in rehearsal on time or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. I feel that way too.
But it's hard to remember that in the moment.
Yes, it is.
I feel like I'm constantly, we got to get there. We got to be there. We got to do this. We got to do that. And
yeah.
But do we got to do it?
Right.
Or do we not have to do it? Should we just take a minute?
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find that a hard balance. So
it is a hard balance. I think that exact passage struck me the same way, where I went, how much time am I doing for them instead of doing with them?
Right.
So I'd rather be doing with them. But how do you get the stuff done you have to do for them? Like somebody's got to cook dinner.
Yeah.
Do I eat out every night to spend time with my kids? I don't know. It's hard to balance.
Yes.
We do. The one good thing we do have is that Dad's not home, 7 days a week. He's home a couple nights a week. So at least one night a week, we all kind of stop and do something together. Even if it's watch my big fat gypsy American wedding, then we're all together discussing what's going on and having a moment like that. And when my dad comes to town, when my in-laws come to town, we kind of stop and play games and do things that we just don't do on a regular basis because we're all in our own kind of like hamster wheel of life, especially now that kids are older. I feel like Georgia has an entire agenda that has nothing to do with my household.
yeah.
I mean, like, check, please. She's gone at every
Pretty
opportunity.
much.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to teenagerhood.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
parents are not an entity at all, except a vehicle to provide money and transportation.
That's right. You're an air fern that drives.
Pretty much. Yes. You're like,
So this weekend, my dad was here and we went to Palm Springs for the weekend. And I said to Bert last night, but Bert came home. My dad left yesterday and Bert came home last night. And I said, I think that's the way to go. Because when my dad comes, Georgia still says, can I go? Can I go to here? Can I go to here? Can I go to there? And then my dad, understandably, is bummed because he's flown 3,000 miles to spend 5 or 6 days here, and all she wants to do is be a teenager, which she has every right to feel. It's a really hard thing to balance. But when I removed her from that option, she spent so much time with my dad.
Yeah.
I mean, they spent so much time. And Isla too, same thing. Isla is, I think, more social than Georgia. Just not there's not as much going on in her age as there is in George's age. But she would, we would have spent the weekend having sleepovers. When I can't do that, you should be with Papa J. So I said to Bert, I think when he comes again in the spring, we're going to go somewhere. Even if we just leave Friday night, come back Sunday morning, and he's here for 8 or 10 days.
Right.
We're just going to extract ourselves from this community for his sake. Because they had a blast. We played so much Parcheesi. And, I asked them to play Parcheesi with me, and they're like, I don't want to play Parcheesi.
Yeah.
Papa J comes to town, and the trash talking starts flying. And the Parcheesi, it's all about who can send who back the most. And they have so much fun, and they won't play like that with me. And they won't play like that with him if there's something else to do.
That's funny. I think, you know what? You're so right. We had that, we go apple picking every year.
Yeah.
Which is a big endeavor in California because there really are not apple orchards.
No,
so
I really know.
But we have been going since the children Lily took her first steps in an apple orchard.
Aww.
So we have been going every flipping year. And this year my kids are like, really? And I was like, we're going. I don't care because I know you are trying to get out and you're going to be out in a heartbeat. So we're going anyway. And they had a blast.
Yeah.
Like they were removed from here. It's a 2-hour drive there. It's a 2-hour drive back. It's not an easy thing. It's an all-day adventure. And they had a great time. But because they were kidnapped, they had no option.
Yeah.
They couldn't go anywhere else. They couldn't do anything else. But I think that matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
like
think so
this is
too.
a part of our family. This is what we do.
Yeah.
Every year. This is, and I don't care that you're too old for it. We're doing it anyway.
Well, it's
Moral
not
of
just
the story,
that.
kidnap your kids.
Moral of the
Pretty
story,
much,
yes.
yes.
Well, I think really the moral of the story is to set things up to remind them
Yeah.
this is your family. Like your friends are your family too. They are.
Yeah.
And they have
And they
a
are
valid,
very important.
100%.
Yes.
Valid, legitimate place in your life absolutely should be a focus.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, we're just going to reel it in. And we went with another family, and the 4 kids in that family are completely different phases. One's super into social media. The other one's, they're just in completely different places. And the 4 of them had more fun than I'd seen them have together here in this town in I don't even remember how long, because they were removed from, I'd rather be at so-and-so's house because I hang out with so-and-so now, or, I have homework. I'd rather be doing my homework. All that was gone. And those 4 knuckleheads had so much fun together. And I thought, isn't that great also to remember? And they all had so much fun with my dad. My dad's so good with kids, even though they're not kids technically.
Yeah.
He just is real good with them. So it was nice to remember that. I mean, thanks, Jeannie, for that conversation, because that really is very valuable to realize not to let the minutia be what your kids remember.
Right. The hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Because
They remember.
it'll still be there on Monday.
Absolutely. But they'll remember apple picking forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We used to go to Palm Springs every summer.
Mm-hmm.
They had to remember that year that we got the root beer floats by the pool and they were terrible. They melted. I mean, they have all these memories.
Yeah.
And as much as we go, do we really go back there? I mean, I'm so tired of that resort. My kids missed it this year. They were like, I can't believe we didn't go. It's the first year we hadn't gone in years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's like Band-Aids floating in the pool. Why are we going to this shit place every year? But it's about that tradition, right?
Yeah.
About this is the way our family works. We decorate our front yard for Halloween like crazy people every year. And our kids are like rubbing their hands together. When do we get to do it? When do we get to do it? Every year, because that's what they'll remember. And trick-or-treating from my house, which is great. Trick-or-treating is so funny because it's the one night where the moms drink in our group, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And our kids are like, oh, you know what happens on Halloween? Mom's getting drunk on Halloween. It's the one night my kids think I drink. The whole year is Halloween. Another tradition. See? We're spending quality time with our kids, walking up down the street with booze in a backpack, screaming at each other because we're all hammered. It's one of my favorite nights, actually. Anyway. I really enjoyed this book.
Yeah, it's an easy read,
It was very
pleasant
easy
read.
to read. Yeah.
It was very conversationally written, I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I just breezed through it. I read it
Yeah.
very quickly. And I got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a lot
Yeah,
out of
It's a
it?
good
too.
reminder. Yeah. I think you need that, or I need that,
Mhm.
in general.
I
So,
obviously
yeah.
got a lot out of it because I have 2 pages. Of
Well, keep reading. Keep
quotations.
reading. We don't have to stop.
I don't know. Remember that people are more important than accomplishments. That's just, in the same vein as what we were talking about, is like accomplishing, getting stuff done, getting it done. And I was confronted with that last night when I yelled at one of my children because this child did not turn in an assignment that she had been granted an extension on, and she knew and it was done and it was completed. In fact, it was completed before she was granted the extension. And then she knew that the very last chance to turn it in was yesterday, and did not turn it in. And I screamed. I thought I was going to lose my voice. I don't generally yell at my kids.
Yeah.
But I was incredulous. And when I was going over my notes this morning, I was like,
Maybe the person is more important than the accomplishment.
yes, exactly. But
But maybe not.
but also like in the balance of things, it's like, again, in balance, I'm like, how am I going to teach them
Yeah.
to be productive
Yeah.
members of society? Oh, yeah.
Well, sometimes the yelling is necessary, I think, really. Sometimes, I mean, not.
To let them
Abusively,
know that mom is serious.
This is, yeah.
Yeah.
You've crossed a line here.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you walk around yelling at your kids all the time. So when you actually do yell,
No,
it
although
should have some weight.
It has
do you know
some
what?
more
One of them,
validity,
though, a couple weeks ago said, "You've spent your entire life screaming at me." And I was so hurt. And I mean, I was just beside myself. I felt like mildly suicidal. And when I told Richard about it, he was like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It's just not true." And then I told my mom about it, and she laughed as hard as you're laughing now. She couldn't stop laughing. She said,
your entire life.
and my mom like
Talk
could
about
not stop
teenagers,
laughing,
right?
and
Like
she's
the
like, "Oh,
drama."
that's hilarious." And I said, "I didn't think it was very hilarious. Like, it really hurt my feelings. I thought, my God, is this what she's taken away from her childhood?"
No,
Like,
it's not.
Not at all.
it's
It's
what
not.
the teenagers take away right now.
Yes.
Is
It's
That's
her.
exactly
yes,
what it
that's
is.
right.
you yelled at me
It's
3
not.
times in my life, and
Yeah.
that
Right.
constitutes my entire childhood.
Exactly. Your
Yes.
entire no. Your entire life. You started yelling at her before she was even born, apparently. Your entire life has been dedicated to screaming at her. Well, I've been accused of the same. And it's just laughable what they, this is the worst day of my life. They just live in hyperbole
Yeah.
entirely.
Oh, well, my teenager screamed the other day over the weekend. She said, "You're terrible parents," to both of us, because we were on the same page about something. And the something that we were on the same page about was that she wants to take the day after Halloween off of school. And we said no. It also related to the grades, that it was like, okay, no, in general, but also like, if you're going to make such a request, you kind of have to be like really kicking ass in the grades department. And then she said, "Well, we're going to be staying out until 2 a.m. And I was like, whoa, actually, no.
No, you're not, right?
You're not. Nobody's trick-or-treating until 2 a.m. I get angry if our doorbell's ringing after 9 o'clock. Like,
Right? She going to a rave? What's she
No,
doing?
Exactly. She was irate, and she said, "You're the 2 most controlling people I've ever
my
met."
Oh my God. You should have high-fived Richard and you done. We did it. Yes. Most controlling ever. Definitely Hitler was not controlling.
Oh my God.
Definitely Donald Trump is not controlling. I am worse. That's
I
really
get that all the
funny.
time about bedtime with my older one. The bedtime is like such a battle.
How
You're
dare
the
you.
only parent
Oh.
who makes me go to bed. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm your parent. Like,
I'm cool with that, actually.
Yeah.
I'm fine with
Yeah,
being
yeah.
the only parent who makes you go to bed.
You
Like,
can
I'm-
tell him Leanne does the same
Yeah.
thing. So I'm not the only one.
I'm like,
Yeah, so does Kirsten.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Well, you want to hear a really funny story?
Uh-huh.
Someone who's a regular on this podcast called me the other day because she went to a parenting series at her daughter's middle school who told her that children should have a bedtime, and she thought that was insane. She was like, "Are you serious? They're supposed to, do your kids have a bedtime?" And I was like, "Yeah, since birth, they've had a bedtime."
Still,
Yeah.
15-year-old still
Yeah,
has a bedtime.
we still have a
Sorry.
bedtime.
Yeah.
Same. She was like, "Yeah, they say it's like a real healthy boundary." And I went, "Yeah, it is." No wonder you're having trouble with your kids. And, I just can't figure out this social media thing with them. And I said, "Well, why don't you make them leave their phones downstairs?" And she was like, "Well, because they use them for an alarm clock." I went, "Yeah, they don't make those anymore, do they? They don't make just a standard alarm clock. Do they have an Alexa in their room that they can say, 'Hey, Alexa, set an alarm for 6 a.m.'" Oh.
Oh, she's doing it.
Oh, sorry,
no.
Alexa.
Stop listening in on our conversations.
Alexa, cancel the alarm. Nope. Rats.
Somebody's waking up at 6 a.m.
I know, right? Maybe I'll send it to her house.
Right.
But yeah, she literally, through the phone could see the light bulb. Oh, I guess they could leave their phone downstairs if they used Alexa for there. I was like, yeah, they want to listen to music on their phone. Alexa.
Right.
They don't need their phone. Sorry, Alexa. Alexa, cancel 6 a.m. alarm for tomorrow.
6 a.m. alarm canceled.
Nice.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm shocked that anybody doesn't understand that a kid needs a bedtime. Right.
I need a bedtime.
I'm
I
not
have-
particularly
yeah.
shocked by this conversation.
I'm not particularly shocked by the person either, but I was a little bit. A little, just a teeny bit, like just a head shaker. Like, oh my God, seriously.
Right.
Wow.
Like one of those. Yeah. I'll tell you who after.
Like, have you never read any parenting?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I don't
Anyway,
think so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to know you've
Anyway.
been yelling at your child for your
For
entire
your entire life.
I'm a
Mine
terrible
says to
person.
me, all you do is yell. And I go, really?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm a passionate talker. Are you maybe misinterpreting
Yeah.
that as yelling?
We've talked about that before, though, that it's like what they hear. Because when I got
Yes, their
accused,
interpretation is very
yeah,
different.
the day that I got accused of screaming nonstop, I was not screaming. I was not yelling. I was speaking in a firm, serious tone of voice.
Yeah.
Because I was not happy.
Yeah.
This person was being very disrespectful to her parent.
Yeah.
But I was speaking like that, and that was construed as screaming at her for her entire life.
I know. I've said to my kids, you want me to show you how screaming looks?
Yeah.
Because I'll scream at you if you want me to.
You've actually seen me scream.
Yeah.
And this is not it.
That's not it. Maybe you don't remember. Maybe you've blocked it out from the
Yeah.
trauma of the one time I've screamed at you your whole life. I don't know. Kids are so funny. But what else from the book?
What
Anything
else from the book? What else from the book? Oh, I loved this. When a tragedy occurs, it's an awkward time for friends and acquaintances. We don't know if we should call or visit and what the appropriate behavior is. And she talked about the people who came, remembering the people who came and then the people who didn't come. And I was like, oh, I'm the person who doesn't come.
Yeah.
Because I
'Cause you
feel
don't want to
like
be intrusive.
no,
Yeah.
exactly. And I feel the life struggle. I feel
Yeah.
like that is one of the hardest things in the world to know when you're supposed to show up.
And even the friend that showed up for Jim, who didn't want anybody in the waiting room while
Yeah.
she was going through the surgery, and
Yeah.
the comic who just showed up and sat with him all day,
Yeah.
and how great that was for Jim, who didn't want anybody.
Yeah.
It's true. We need people. We need people.
Mhm.
And I'm the same way too. I probably wouldn't, unless it was one of you, I would have probably just pushed through with one of you and showed up with something and said, let me help you. But anybody outside my immediate circle, I wouldn't just show up, because people process things differently. Some people really do want to be by themselves. I would say I want to be by myself and not really, and internally totally not want anybody there. But if someone came, I think I would be so happy. Does that make sense? Because I don't want anybody to be burdened. But if someone showed up, it would make me really happy. And I wonder if a lot of people would feel that way. And some things are very private,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know?
Especially when it comes to medical stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's gross, and it's, like there's a lot of
Yeah.
embarrassment that
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
with that stuff. So it is awkward to know whether you're supposed to show up or not.
It is. It's very
know?
vulnerable and exposed. And
Yeah.
I mean, you're half naked half the time.
Oh, yeah,
with
you got
what
a
you're
catheter
wearing
or
and-
whatever, like, yeah.
It's not. So, yeah. Well, for the record, if I have cancer, you can come see me. I don't care if you see my hoo-ha.
What about
I
if
need
you
my
have,
friends.
Okay, but cancer, like it's like, but that's a perfect example. It's like, okay, well, if you have cancer, but then what if you have, I don't know, what's like a minor but embarrassing thing? Like, what if you have
Scabies.
like an
Scabies? If you have
Yeah.
scabies, I'm not coming. It's contagious.
what if you have
Ringworm.
I've been there, done that.
I
that's not embarrassing though. Like,
What would be embarrassing? Like,
I don't know.
when you have to have your vajayjay redone because you're peeing your pants all the time. I would want you to come see me then anyway, because my vajayjay I would be in pain. You wouldn't need to change my catheter or anything, but you come sit with me and talk about.
okay, all right.
Remember that old vajay? That girl's gone. Everything's much nicer now.
The one I used to wear on my, as a hat.
Yes,
Is that what you used to say?
Yes. Yes. The hat's much smaller now. I don't know if it'll fit.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if there's any medical condition at this age, I don't know there's any medical condition I would be embarrassed to have somebody come. I mean, everybody's different, but what part of my body? I'm not embarrassed by any part of my body. Not even like my asshole. Like if somebody had asshole surgery, you wouldn't have to see it unless they propped me like ass up in the air, but it had to air out for a couple days. Then don't come.
Sorry, we're in the airing out period.
The a-hole
Eye contact
air.
only. Eye contact only.
Eyes are up here. Eyes are up here. That's right. That's right. That's the only thing I can think of, maybe.
Okay, but think about it. What if you ended up, for some reason, having a tracheotomy? It's not attractive. There is stuff that leaks out on occasion or whatever that doesn't necessarily smell good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
medical stuff.
Well,
is
yeah,
not
I mean,
super
she talked
easy.
about that.
So
So it was like there was the
like-
drooling, but also she had
Right.
There was the drooling.
She had the G tube too,
Yeah.
or the
Yeah. oh yeah,
you know, and there were all sorts of mishaps with that,
Yeah.
where it's leaking and exploding.
right.
Shot the
Right,
tube
or-
across
right,
the
exactly when
room
she
or
like
whatever.
sneezed or coughed or
Yeah.
whatever, like and your thing popped out.
Yeah.
Like that can be potentially very embarrassing.
Throwing up every 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that in childbirth. Every 10 minutes I threw up in front of a room full of people.
Childbirth is different though. I think you get a pass no matter what happens.
But why don't you get a pass for other medical
Yeah,
problems?
I think
I don't know.
I think I would give a pass to anybody for anything.
Absolutely.
Hey, I
Well,
changed
I
my
would give a
grandma's
pass,
diaper.
but
I feel if I could change
I don't
my
know that I
grandma's
would
diaper.
want. Like I would give a pass to anyone else, but I don't know that I would want people necessarily to see that.
See, I figured that about you.
You know,
I figured that about you. You're
Like-
one of those people. I'm joking. But yeah, I would, in all honesty, I thought Cathy would not want someone there under any circumstances. There were some circumstances you wouldn't want anybody there.
yeah.
I can't think of anything that would bother me. Anything would bother you? You wouldn't want anybody there?
Well, I mean,
besides the asshole surgery
so-
we discussed.
I'm, you know, that I'm like kind of a private person.
Yeah.
And so when the day that Vivian ended up being born, a bunch of my girlfriends were coming in to sit with me for like the first time. It was like hang out with me while I was on bed rest. Well, unbeknownst to all of them, Vivian was born early. And so I had just I just had a baby and got wheeled back into the room. And then they all they were waiting in the waiting room. They're like, where is she? Where's her room? And they're like, oh, she's in surgery. And they're like, what? Like, what's happening? So they ended up coming and spending the day with me, but it was an emergency C-section. And so they gave me a shot of morphine before it because they didn't have a chance for for an epidural to kick in. And so when they all came to see me, I was high on morphine, unknown. I didn't know what was happening. I mean, it was all so fast, whatever. And so I was like, I remember saying to them, you know, they were like, how are you doing? Because I had this baby that was 10 weeks early and that was, you know, up on another floor who, you know, I spotted at birth, but like I hadn't seen since then. And they were like, how are you doing? And I was like, I think emotionally, I'm really handling this well.
Drugs help a lot.
Totally. And then like the next day, I was crying and crying and crying and saying to Richard, I was like, I was doing so well yesterday. And he's like, yeah, yesterday you were on morphine.
Everybody does well on morphine.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, but it was amazing to have them there. That wouldn't have been my choice if I was making the plan, but I am so glad that they were there that day. It was really great because it was really stressful. It really helped keep my mind off of the fact that, wait a minute, I have a baby who's on another floor. I don't know how she's doing. I don't know what's happening.
Right.
So yeah, in retrospect, I think I would tell all of my friends to ignore whatever I tell them. If I end up in the hospital, I will
Right,
probably
and just
say,
come
no,
anyway.
no, don't come. Don't trouble yourself. Because I'd be thinking through, it's expensive to park at the hospital. It's
Yeah.
a pain. It's, it's such an inconvenience and whatever. And I like to process it. I'm private and I like to process things by myself. But really, I think it would be better to have people
To
there.
have people there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
As you were talking, I was thinking about when I had Georgia and I had a difficult delivery. And when people were coming to see me, I was nasty. I was not nice.
Oh.
And I was not on morphine. I was like, get the fuck out. That was my entire attitude. Get the fuck out. Everything from the waist down is just exploded. And my head is killing me. And I don't want anybody in here. I wanted Bert in there, but I didn't want anybody in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe with all my pontificating right now about wanting people in there, maybe that's really not how I would react. Because in all honesty, I was an asshole right after I had her. I did not want anybody talking to me. And you know what was happening was that I felt so out of control with my body because I was in such bad shape. Not bad shape like Jeannie Gaffigan, but like the headache was so intense that I couldn't care for anybody else. So if anybody shows up, you have to be courteous and nice and thank you for coming. And I couldn't do that. And that was making me embarrassed and angry. So I just didn't want anybody to come because I couldn't be appropriate.
Yeah, you
Right.
didn't have the bandwidth for anybody else. You had to heal and process.
That headache, I've never experienced pain like that ever. I can't describe it. It was so excruciating that I just couldn't process the world. So I imagine if I were in a similar state, I'd probably act the same way. As much as I think that I'd want to have people there, I'd probably, start throwing things. Get the fuck out! I don't want you here. Don't you see I'm suffering? I don't know. You never know till you're in
you
the
don't know.
situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I did not handle that gracefully. I can say that. I don't feel I handled it gracefully. So,
But you get a pass.
I got a pass big time. That birth was ridiculous. So, but the second time when I had no problems, everything was really gracious and nice, but I wasn't in any pain, after Isla.
That's just the thing is that pain is, and whether it's like actual like physical pain or like the pain of not being able to swallow and eat and any pain is just another level. Like
It is. It's really hard. And you never know how you are going to react through real pain, like real pain.
Yeah.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
So I really like that Jeannie kind of laid it all out and seemed pretty honest. I mean, obviously we weren't there. We don't know if she left big, huge, temper tantrums or whatever out, but the way she portrayed herself seemed pretty real.
Yeah, she said she was a difficult patient.
Yeah.
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 And I appreciated hearing that.
Yeah.
I did. I thought that was great.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to say about the book?
It's an easy read.
It's
It's
an easy
definitely
read.
a good reminder.
It's a good reminder.
I feel like everyone should, again, everyone can take something away from this book.
I think so.
You know?
I think you're right. And I think anybody who's going through any kind of health trauma or even members of their family, because I think a lot of times she's right. People don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe a good perspective, give you a good perspective.
Yeah, she really broke it down about what the different members of her family did for her and how they were each helpful in their own ways. Like the one brother who was a real intellectual who really stimulated her intellectually, and that was part of her that was, atrophying almost, like laying in bed, and that, the one brother massaged her feet. And then, people brought different gifts, like not necessarily tangible gifts, but like that really helped in her recovery. And I think that was very gracious of her to acknowledge all of the caregivers, because that's a really hard position to be in.
Yeah.
And because the caregiver feels powerless too. And then you have to do all of this busy work, but really ultimately she's lying in a hospital bed and she's at the mercy of the neurologist and all sorts of things that you can't do for her. So, I think it would be really good to read from a caregiving perspective too.
Yeah. It's a good book.
And parenting wise, there were a lot of gems. Like when she talked about one of her little daughters having the revelation that one of her daughters really wanted this play kitchen, and she kept saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to make room for it. That's a great idea." And she was totally on board. She had it in her Amazon cart, but they just couldn't figure out where to put it in the apartment. And by the time they figured it out, she realized her daughter had outgrown play kitchens. And that, I just think from a parenting standpoint, that could go in so many different directions.
Absolutely.
That I think we can all relate to that in some way, of like somehow missing the boat with something. So yeah, as a parent, as a non-parent, as a caregiver, as somebody who's going through a medical crisis or has been through a medical crisis, I would recommend it.
I would too. I agree. It was really good. So again, When Life Gives You Pears, Jeannie Gaffigan. So pick it up. Pick up a copy. Audiobook, digital, whatever. But Bert and I podcasted with her about the book, and that episode is on the Bertcast also. So I don't know what episode it will be of the Bertcast, but I'm sure you can just search by Jeannie Gaffigan and listen to that as well. So thanks for reading this book. Thanks for reading all these books. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the recommendation.
And for discussing and all your copious notes.
I know, right? Thank you for that.
I took notes and I can't find my notes. I need an office. So I don't have an office. My office is kind of wherever I stick something, and then now it's getting lost. So I apologize for not being more prepared. I was prepared, but then time went by and the preparation went with the wind. But I really did enjoy the book.
You could actually say the dog ate it.
The dog ate it. Yes,
Right?
my dog ate my notes. Yes, my dog. The notes were in this book. They were just stuck right in the back. And look what happened. Just ripped them all to shreds. Yep, dog ate my homework.
See, there you go.
Thank you, Cathy, for pulling me out of that one.
Welcome.
All right, till next time.